Voiceover is everywhere, and you hear it every day. From radio.
Number one for New Country 96.3 Hawkeye in the morning.
To TV.
My name is Lady Whistledown. You do not know me, but I know you.
To movies.
My name is Optimus Prime. Autobots, roll out!
To animation.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
And so much more.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it.
Welcome to episode 14.
Welcome to Who Did That Voice, the show where we take an in-depth look at the world of voiceover, including movies, TV, animation, and more. And now, here's your host, Trenton Larkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today's special guest is the voice of Captain Planet and Captain Pollution from Captain Planet and the Planeteers. This was one of my all-time favorite animations as a kid, so I'm super excited to share this interview with you today as we get to dive into the man behind the voice of Captain Planet. So I hope you guys all enjoy these clips and the special interview to follow with our amazing special guest. Hope you enjoy.
Let our powers combine. Earth, fire, wind, water. Your powers combine. I am Captain Planet. Go Planet!
If they want to play dirty, then we'll call Captain Pollution.
Let our polluting powers combine. Super radiation.
Deforestation. Mud. Toxic.
Hate! By your polluting powers combined, I am Captain Pollution! Go Pollution! Captain Planet, huh? You don't look so tough. Neither do you, Pollution. In fact, you look a little green around the gills.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Who Did That Voice? Today on the show, I am super excited to be bringing you a man who has voiced one of my absolute favorite superheroes of all times, David Coburn. David, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
An honor and a pleasure, Trenton. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for sparing a little bit of your time here at this very late hour in Paris, France. It's super exciting to be connected with you.
It's super excited to be connected with you and to be part of the Who Did That Voice community.
I appreciate it. Well, you know, David, we want to get to know you. So the very first thing we like to do is get to know our guest on a more personal level so that people feel more connected with our guests. So tell me about little David, the boy who grew up into the man he is today, and how did he become an actor?
That's a pretty good question. I don't get asked that very often. I fell into acting quite literally. I was a pretty avid and crazy skier as a child, and winter 1978, I was out to Utah. It was Christmas Eve, and I'd been invited to participate in the Torchlight Parade that night by my ski instructor because I was such an incredibly good skier and, humble little guy. And I took a bad jump at the end of the day and knocked 4 teeth out of my mouth.
Oh, no.
On Christmas Eve, yeah, and slid down the hill in a bloody trail. And they spent a couple hours looking for my teeth, couldn't find them. Sent me to Salt Lake City for an x-ray of my face, and a very nice oral surgeon saved my teeth, found them under my nose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And needless to say, while everybody else was eating Christmas dinner, I was sucking a Carnation instant breakfast through a straw.
Oh, yuck.
I basically ate through a straw for about a month. I had hamburger shake.
Oh, wow.
Green bean shake for a while. Yeah, once chocolate and vanilla get old pretty fast. So,
wow.
The good news is that when I got the wires off of my mouth, I couldn't really play any contact sports at the time. So I went into the drama class at this private high school where I went to in the San Fernando Valley. A director of a TV show came in to see his daughter in the school play and saw me. I was playing 3 roles in the play. A pilot, an Italian lover, and one of the waiters on board this shipboard romance. And he saw me and he called me in to audition for a role on an old series in the early 80s called One Day at a Time. I don't know if that rings a bell.
I think it does, but it's a little bit before my time.
Yeah, well, good for you. Proud to say it. I got the role, and the night that we shot that show, I got an agent, and I haven't stopped working since.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I really did just kind of fall into it by accident, and it just turned out to be a really great vehicle for me. And on a more personal level, right at the time my acting career started, my parents got divorced.
Oh no.
And the families that I created on set and in the cast of these productions I was working on proved to be a really powerful support system for me at the time. So there's an interesting tidbit.
Absolutely. Well, we always love to get to know the behind the scenes stories because they really do help us kind of understand the actor on a level that some people may have never heard before. So I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to share.
Well, David, so tell me, as a kid growing up, were there any cartoons or shows or actors that kind of inspired you as a kid, even though you kind of fell into acting? Were there ever any actors that even maybe once you got into the acting industry that kind of were inspirational or kind of coached you or mentored you?
Well, I grew up loving, the greats of the time, like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. I was fascinated by those guys. Dustin Hoffman, and many times in my life, people have told me that I reminded them of those guys, and I'm humbly grateful.
I could totally see that in your face. Absolutely, yeah.
Kind words. It's funny. I grew up in Southern California, but I've made a living playing bad guys from New York.
That's pretty funny.
And then in 1998, I moved to New York to do Saturday Night Fever on Broadway. I was a singer and a dancer and an actor in that Broadway production, and did 507 shows across 2.5 years.
That's a lot.
And in New York, everybody said, "Wow, you're such a Californian." And then I moved to France in 2007, and everybody said, "You're so New York." And then I come back to New York, everybody says, "Oh, you're so French." So whatever. It proves one thing and one thing only, that everybody has an opinion. The life of an actor is an interesting one because you really don't know what's next.
Yeah, absolutely.
You never really do know what's coming next, and so you just hone your craft. You stay open, and you practice your ass off.
Absolutely. Well, David, what brought you to Paris?
I fell in love with a French girl. There you go.
Cool. Very cool. Well, I met my wife on eHarmony, and I moved where she was, so I've kind of had that same kind of experience. So,
congratulations, Mazel Tov to you both.
Yeah, Mazel Tov to you too, my friend.
Thank you so much. I am the proud and panicked father of two 9-year-old twins.
Oh wow, twins!
Bilingual, beautiful, and mind blowing.
Oh wow. So what we are going to dive into right now is Captain Planet and Captain Pollution, which you played on occasion as well. The show ran from 1990 to 1996. And for you, David, what was it like getting to play a superhero for 6 years on that show?
It actually ran longer than that.
Did it really?
It was actually, yeah, we actually did. I think we recorded shows consistently for 11 years.
Wow. Wow.
Up until 2000, 2001. And it stayed on the air on Cartoon Network for another 12 years.
Wow.
And then it was syndicated on a web channel called the Mother Nature Network for a while. And recently Warner Brothers has opened up their vaults and has allowed reproduction and re-release of a DVD series of the first season, I believe.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And that was the work of a really amazing group of staunch Captain Planet fans and sincere Planeteers in Australia, with whom I worked at the last Comic-Con in New York in 2015. And they were instrumental in getting Warner Brothers to let that out. I actually tried really hard to launch a new version of Captain Planet in the 2006 and 2007. This is kind of interesting. I saw Al Gore's film Inconvenient Truth in 2006, and I was deeply moved, like a lot of people. And I came home and I thought, what the hell are you doing, man? Auditioning for shows and trying to get jobs on TV shows and doing cartoons. You're Captain Planet, man. Do something. And I wrote Al Gore a letter, and I said basically that, Mr. Gore, my name is David Coburn. I'm the voice of Captain Planet, and we basically been working on the same thing, except I have 10 million fans worldwide.
Yeah.
And he invited me to participate in a training program in Nashville. And to 2006, 2007, I was one of 1,000 people selected out of 40,000 applicants. And I sat next to Cameron Diaz for the week. She was kind of cool.
Wow.
And he taught us how to teach people about climate change. And he gave us permission to use his information and his slides and his name. And for a year, I walked up and down the eastern seaboard from New York to Florida and taught climate change and stewardship to kids across America.
Wow.
And part of the reason I moved to France was because I was trying to put together an educational program for children, because my position is and always has been that kids are the only demographic on the planet that are not motivated by profit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ideology alone is enough to convert a child, and those children, those planeteers, will become consumers of the future and lawmakers and voters. And it just seemed like an untapped opportunity. And I got really close. I had 3 sit-down meetings with Al Gore, and I had 3 face-to-face meetings with Ted Turner himself, the creator of Captain Planet.
Wow.
Ted was a really nice guy. He was a staunch supporter. He said, "Yeah, I like Al Gore. He's a good friend of mine." And I said, "Well, can I have your help?" He says, "Well, you definitely have my support, but you don't have my money yet." Well, what do I have to do to get your money? He says, "Keep talking." So I worked really hard at it for about a year. I tried to bring the politician, the billionaire together, and nobody wanted to really sign that deal. And I was so close, and consequently so disappointed, that I decided to move to France.
Well, David, I would say don't give up on that dream, because a reboot with Captain Planet and you coming back to voice him would be epic. I would say pursue Netflix or HBO, but I would say more so probably Netflix, because they are picking up stuff all the time, like Lost in Space. They've picked up Voltron. They've picked up a lot of older stuff and rebooted them and made them amazing. So.
You have a much bigger listening audience than I do right now, although Captain Planet has one of the biggest fan bases of any superheroes ever created. So the show was syndicated in over 83 countries and translated in over 95 different languages.
Dang, that's insane. I did not know that.
It reached at least 3 generations of people in 20 years.
It's an amazing show, and it has definitely left an imprint on the planet. So
if you have access to those people, tell them, write Netflix. Let's bombard Netflix with a pile of mail, and see if anybody reacts. I know that last year Leonardo DiCaprio succeeded in purchasing the film production rights for a feature film version of Captain Planet. I wrote to him and got no response. There was an article written about me, an interview by a really nice reporter. You can find this interview online if you just look up Hollywood Reporter Captain Planet. And he was basically an appeal to Leonardo DiCaprio to go ahead and get David Coburn back to play the voice, and whoever's standing in the the rubber suit.
Yeah. Well, I know they've been talks of a live action film for a long time, but I haven't seen anything progressively more than just some rumors here and there. But that would be pretty epic to see a live action film, I think, even done of it as well.
It is a worldwide multi-tiered fan base that spans at least 3 generations. It's astounding how many people know and identify with Captain Planet and his value system.
Well, and the theme song alone is so freaking epic. I mean, it may have been the cheesiest of cheesiest things back in the day, but it really holds its weight in gold. And it's one of those theme songs that you can sing along with, the words. And it's not one of those, it's like, the words don't seem to go with the music at all. It flows so well and was so well developed, the show and the theme song. So
it was the result of a lot of love and a lot of visionary people working together toward the same goal. It was a real special honor to participate in. I was working alongside some incredible actors, some big celebrities, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm happy to be able to say that I'm the only actor in Hollywood who ever replaced Tom Cruise.
How so?
Tom was originally hired to play the voice of Captain Planet.
Seriously? I did not know that. Wow.
This is good trivia.
That's awesome.
He completed the recordings of 6 episodes, and his contract went into force if he recorded 7. And before he came into his 7th episode, I had a casting for it with Marcia Goodman, the voice director for the show, and I got the job.
Wow. And then you re-recorded those episodes he had already done, though, right? Okay.
Recorded the first 6 and did the other 115. Yeah.
Good Lord, dude. And a show getting that many episodes nowadays is almost like unheard of. But, y'all ran for such a long time. And I really loved, just the quality of each of the episodes. And there was a lot of heart, pun intended, in the show because it was just well structured. I love the diversity of the actors, with there being a kid from Russia, one from Africa, one from America, South America, and Asia. I think they say Asia in that one, which
they
could have been anywhere.
I think she was really Japanese.
And then they said Soviet Union, which, that's a little different now, but but it's epic, dude. There's a lot of diversity in the show. It would play well as a feature film, I think, probably more than one film. I mean, a lot of things do trilogies now. I could see it really being, if it was done right, structured well with people that really had the Planeteer mindset, like I do, I think it would be a fantastic franchise of movies.
I agree with you. And the people that were Planeteers back in the day are now a lot of them anyway, are parents of young Planeteers. And they've got this value system built into their teaching methods and their lifestyle. And it's a powerful fan base with the potential to actually change things. One of the things I learned from Al Gore was that all the ideology in the world isn't worth what he said was, and I quote him, all the ideology in the world isn't worth a hill of beans unless you can turn it into law. Law gets made by voters, and there's a lot of Planeteers out there that don't vote green. Nobody can tap into this Planeteer fan base, man. I'm telling you. It is literally 10 million people worldwide, maybe more now. Those are the last stats I had, and that was 10 years ago.
Wow. And I'm sure it's probably grown a lot more since then, if it's 10-year-old stats, that's for sure.
I was in New Zealand shooting a commercial that actually was released here in France the same month that I arrived. I had one day off, and I went to a yoga class. And on the way back from my yoga class to the hotel, I crossed this plaza, and there were like 3,000 kids out there. Everybody was shouting for climate change and protect the planet. And all over the place, there's pictures of Captain Planet. People got posters of Captain Planet. As I walk up to some kid and I say, "Hey, man, how do you know Captain Planet?" He's like, "Oh, everybody knows Captain Planet." I'm like, "Well, okay. I'm Captain Planet." He goes, "No." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "No way." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "No." And I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "Oh." I said, "The power is yours." He goes, "Oh my God." And he brings me up to the platform. And 5 minutes ago, I'm walking back from yoga class, and now I'm on fucking stage, and I'm looking at 3,000 people, and I gave my little pitch, and I thanked them for their service, and I reminded them that I was just their powers combined and magnified, and without them, there is no Captain Planet. And it was a humbling moment to realize that far away from home that many people cared about something I did that long ago.
Yeah.
And I think it still exists. I mean, that's why we're sitting here and talking tonight. So back in the day, these drawings took a long time to produce. They weren't being drawn by a computer. They were being drawn by an army of animators in Asia.
Oh, wow.
And what would happen was we would get a storyboard, the director would look at it, and we would come in and read the show like a radio play.
Nice.
Twice, once every 3 months. And they would mix the audio and send a rough audio without music and effects to the animators. And then that would come back, and we would do fixes for things that needed pickups or improvements. But the drawings were made to the audio. It wasn't the other way around. And the turnaround was a long time.
Well, when they're hand drawn, I'm sure. I mean, it takes a lot to draw a full show by hand, even with a team of animators.
I have a couple of original cells.
That's
from the
epic.
show. Yeah.
That's awesome.
They're amazing. One from the scene that I did for my audition, in which Captain Planet gets covered with toxic goo.
Yeah.
And the Planeteers splash clean water on him to clean off his chest plate so he can get some sunshine and recharge himself. And I remember in the audition, I said, "What's happening here?" She said, the Planeteers throw water on your face, and then you get better, and you stand up and you say your line. I'm like, "Okay, all right, and go." So I'm like, "Thanks, Planeteers." And apparently that was what got me the job.
That's awesome. I do remember I remember that episode, but that's a funny story behind the scenes of how you got the role. So
the fact that I shook the water face like a dog was what endeared them to my performance.
That's so funny. Well, a couple of other projects that you've worked on. You've done the winter game Neverwinter Nights 2. You were on the TV show Law and Order Special Victims Unit. You were on Harry and the Hendersons, which was a funny show about Bigfoot living with a family in suburbia. And then you were also on Star Trek The Next Generation, which are just a few of the things you've worked on besides Captain Planet and Space Strikers.
Funny thing about Star Trek was that I was in engineering and a servant to LeVar Burton.
That's pretty
who
funny.
Played Kwame in Captain Planet, and when we were working Captain Planet, I was the boss. So it was that was actually a really good day. I started my career in Norman Lear sitcoms, One Day at a Time, Different Strokes, Facts of Life, 21 Jump Street, 30 Something, Fresh Prince, Sister, Martin, Mad About You, Jag, Sopranos. That's what I can remember right off the top of my head. But it's been a lifetime of work. But Captain Planet has been and always will be the best job I ever had, because it's the only job in Hollywood I ever had that did any good for anybody.
Well, you've listed off a ton more shows, and you've been in just about everything that's been anything. So it's pretty cool that you've had your hand in a little bit of all the Hollywood pies.
You got to make a living, man. I remember back it was really chic to say, no, I don't do commercials. Okay, well, what are you having for dinner?
Back in the day, people would do that. They would actually say that.
Well, yeah, I remember Whoopi Goldberg was one of the first Hollywood celebrities to do an American commercial for an American. It was not chic. You couldn't be taken seriously as a film actor if your head was showing up selling insurance for McDonald's.
Really?
Yeah, no, and celebrities would do advertisements, but they would be exclusively foreign advertisements in Japan or East Germany or the Eastern Bloc. Or no American celebrity did advertising like you see today.
Wow, because it floods the market now. I mean, there's an actor on almost every commercial you see.
I know. I used to make my living in commercials. Now, I do other things.
Well, David, I have two final questions for you, and we will wrap this interview up. Are you ready?
Hit me.
All right. So the first one is, what kind of advice would you give to a young aspiring actor or actress who might be looking at joining this acting world, and maybe more specifically gearing their career towards the niche of voiceover itself?
Well, be specific about why you want to do it. Okay?
Okay.
As I just said, it's really fun to get paid to make silly sounds. If you want to spread your wings as an artist, if you want to expand yourself as an actor, if you want to deepen your craft as a master, don't do it in voiceover. Voiceover is play. It's even more fun, really, than on-camera stage work, because you're allowed, due to the invisibility of the medium, to be all kinds of people you would never get cast as in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So remember what it represents. It's silly sounds in a microphone. You have to have something to say. I think that's very important. It's not about the quality of your voice. It's about the strength of your message. I coach a lot of young actors. A lot of people come into my studio, and I produce their demos, both for animation and advertising and documentary voiceover work. And I helped a lot of people get their careers started. But what I teach is not about your voice. You listen to some of your favorite cartoon voiceover actors, like Richard Horvitz. You ever talk to him?
I haven't talked to Richard, but I would love to. He was Alpha 5's voice for Power Rangers.
He's just an amazing guy. He's such a sweetheart. Richard's got a natural voice that sounds like that, and it's just how he sounds. And so that he made a huge career out of it. It has nothing to do with your voice. It has to do with the quality of your communication.
Yeah.
I would say to young actors starting out, don't think about what this business can give you. Think about what you can bring to it. Think about what you can offer. Every time you open your mouth, offer gifts, provide solutions. Try to make sure that when you speak, you leave the person you're speaking with feeling better than they did before you opened your mouth, or otherwise don't speak. And if you can be that kind of person and play good characters and do silly things with your voice, your people are going to want to work with you. It has nothing to do with the sound of your voice. It really isn't about that. It's about touching people's hearts and making them feel stuff.
I really think that's a solid piece of advice, David. I really love that perspective of not what you can take from the voiceover industry or acting as a whole, but what you can bring to the table. I really love that.
What's going to make you different than the 400 other guys or girls that are just perfect for that role?
Absolutely. What makes you stand out?
Male, age 30 to 45, kind of raspy, guy you hang out with, a guy you'd like to have a beer with. All right, well, there's just like literally millions of voiceover actors like that on the planet that are trying to get that gig. Or maybe not millions, I'm exaggerating, but like lots.
Yeah.
What makes your 30 to 45-year-old male warm, friendly voice you want to have a beer with different from theirs?
Yeah. What makes them stand out? Like when you were doing the dog splashing water off your face type thing where it got you the role of Captain Planet.
It had nothing to do with the beautiful sound of my voice. It was just about the warmth of the spirit of the character I was creating, and that's kind of what lives on in all the work we do.
Absolutely, David. I think that's amazing advice, and I really appreciate your perspective on, the advice for a future actor or actress out there.
My pleasure.
All right, David. So the last and final question is something that you've kind of already touched on a little bit throughout your passionate speaking. You were definitely passionate about that, what you do. And I really love that Captain Planet is more than just a character for you that you've voiced, but he's really kind of the persona of what you stand behind and believe, which is amazing because it's not you just being an actor taking on a job, but you're actually the embodiment of that character, which I really love. So this question we've kind of talked about, it's what is the legacy that you want to leave behind, David?
Well, Jesus. Well, first of all, I gotta clear something up. I was not a tree hugging environmentalist before I got Captain Planet. I liked nature. I was a skier since I was a little kid. I liked hiking in the woods. I didn't leave my trash out there. I wasn't a jerk. I wasn't crushing beer cans on rocks and leaving them in Yosemite. But Captain Planet woke me up to how powerful the individual can be when the individual works in a group. I could no longer smoke cigarettes because some kid might see me smoking and go, "Hey, Captain Planet, Smokey." And there was a lot of kids on my street that stopped calling me David. They just called me Captain. and I would come home from work and I'd say, "Hey, Captain, hey, Captain." And I realized I can't throw trash out the window. I got to make sure I'm living a responsible life. There's people that are looking up to me, like I'm just an actor who got a good job.
Yeah.
But so the job itself changed my personal behavior. And then after 10 years, I learned a lot from working on the show. And then in 2006, I learned a lot from Al Gore. So it's a kind of a continuum that grew organically, both from the opportunity and from my own conscience. What was the second part of the question?
Well,
my legacy?
Yeah, your legacy. Yeah.
What do you want to leave behind? What do you want to leave behind? This is a really, really good question. That's one of the reasons I started working for Al Gore. I have a long resume full of credits. And so what? I changed 50,000 kids' lives in 2006 and 2007. I spoke to one, was an elementary school in Dade County, Florida. And a 5-year-old, maybe he was 6, comes up to me, beautiful little boy, comes up to me, says, "Captain Planet, what can I do?" I said, "Well, here." And I pulled out these 5 plastic rings I had in the bag. I had a whole bunch of merchandise, Captain Planet merch. And I said, "You take these 5 rings and you give them to 5 of your friends. You talk to them about what you learned today about taking care of the planet." And he looks at me like I was an idiot. And he goes, "I know more than 5 people." So maybe the 50,000 kids that I spoke to in 2006 and 2007 really was like 250,000 kids. Because maybe they all talked about the fact that Captain Planet came into their school and talked to them about climate change. You don't really know what your legacy is. You don't ever know what the effect you're going to have on the world. I do know that the only way to make change is to take action. So talking about shit doesn't do shit. Look what happened to the students in Florida and the youth movement against gun control right now.
Yeah.
I mean, for gun control against assault rifles. This is a powerful voice that came organically out of a population and a moral need and responsibility. That's kind of how I feel about climate change, although it doesn't get the press that gun control gets. I do think it's just as important. It's probably going to kill more people than guns one day if we don't take care of it.
Yeah.
And that's why I started talking about it. That's why I started using marquee value of Captain Planet and the recognizability of the brand to get myself into schools and scout troops and churches and temples and environmental organizations and museums and libraries. And I talked to everybody and anybody that would listen. We were financed for about a year with a little bit of government subsidy from Dade County. But I met a girl at a convention in New York. It was an environmental convention in New York. And she came up to me. She was a urban planner for the MTA in New York City. She was 23 years old. And she said the reason that she picked this job was because of Captain Planet.
Wow.
She wanted to go and make environmentally responsible transportation. And she was from Puerto Rico, and she moved to New York, and she got a great job at the MTA working in urban planning. What's your legacy? You decide. But don't talk about it. Do it. Do something that leaves a lasting impact on somebody other than you. Voila.
Well, David, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure having you on the show today, and chatting with you has been a boyhood dream come true. Would you please give us a closeout as one of my absolute favorite superheroes of all time, Captain Planet?
I got to tell you, Trenton, really, honestly, before I go doing any flips and jumps through the rings of fire for you, I got to tell you, the pleasure is definitely mine. But the power is yours. You got to remember, Trenton, I am your powers combined and magnified. This is David Coburn, the voice of Captain Planet. You've been listening to Who Did That Voice?
Well, everyone, I sure hope you enjoyed today's episode with David Coburn, the voice of Captain Planet. And if you did, please find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram by searching Who Did That Voice. And don't forget to like, comment, and share. For those of you listening on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification button so you don't miss out on a single episode. I've been your host, Trenton Larkin, and I'll see you next time.
Hear what Captain Planet has to say.
The power is yours.
Hey everyone, and thanks so much for listening to today's episode of Who Did That Voice? If you enjoyed today's episode, please check us out online on all social media platforms at Who Did That Voice and on YouTube at Who Did That Voice 24. Also, remember to check out our website, whodidthatvoice.org. Again, that's www.whodidthatvoice.org. Thank you to all my listeners out there. I just wanted to say, if you want to partner with Who Did That Voice, just telling your friends and family about us is the best way to share the show with others. And or leaving us a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcast from. The third and final way is by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/Who Did That Voice.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time for more discoveries on Who Did That Voice.